I had never opened the mail with trembling hands before, but that morning something felt off even before I tore into the envelope. The paper was thick, almost clinical, and the return address was from a hospital I'd never been to. I slid the folded sheet out, scanned the top line, and felt the air leave my lungs. Surgery summary, gender reassignment, patient, Daniel Mercer. My name, my address, my date of birth. The words blurred for a second as I blinked hard, convinced I was reading it wrong, that maybe my brain was scrambling letters because it was too early. But the line didn't change. I wasn't scheduled for any surgery, much less something like that. My coffee sat untouched beside me, steam curling into the air as if nothing in the world had shifted, but everything in my chest was rearranging. It had to be a mistake. Clerical error. Someone else with my name. But there was my insurance number printed right beneath it. My signature, except I'd never signed anything. I set the bill down as though it might burn me, my fingertips still tingling. The apartment around me was quiet, too quiet. Emma was still at work, or maybe at the cafe she liked to stop by after her shift. We'd been together 3 years, living together for one, sharing this tiny 2-bedroom space that we'd made ours with mismatched thrift store furniture and plants she insisted had personalities. She didn't know about the other part of me. Or maybe she suspected I'd caught her once, looking just a bit too long when I'd worn her scarf as a joke, and another time when she found the bag in the back of my closet. I'd brushed it off, told her it was leftover from a costume party. She'd smiled, but the kind of smile that says you're filing something away for later. I walked to the window, pulling the curtain aside, scanning the street below like the answer might be down there. Just the usual, the older man from 3 doors down walking his dachshund, a kid on a skateboard rattling over the cracked pavement. My reflection in the glass looked pale, my dark hair a little messy from sleep. I wondered what it would look like if I leaned into those secret parts of me: makeup, clothes, maybe even the confidence I sometimes imagined but never wore. And then I shook my head because this wasn't about that. This was about someone putting my name on something life-changing. My phone buzzed on the counter, and I startled like I'd been caught. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but my thumbs swiped before my mind caught up. Mr. Mercer? The voice was polite, calm, too calm. This is St. Adrian's billing department. We're just calling to confirm receipt of your post-operative statement and to arrange payment plans if needed. My throat went dry. There's been a mistake, I said, my voice cracking in a way I hoped didn't give away the mix of fear and confusion boiling in me. I never had that surgery. Silence on the other end, a kind of pause that made my skin prickle. Sir, it's on record. Performed last Thursday. Signed by you and your attending physician. I gripped the phone tighter. I didn't have surgery last Thursday. I was at work. I can get my boss to confirm it. Another pause. I'll make a note here, the voice said, softer now, like they were making room for doubt. You may want to contact the surgical department to clarify. The call ended before I could ask for more. I set the phone down like it was fragile, then sat heavily at the kitchen table. My mind was a knot. Could someone have stolen my identity? But then why this? Why something so specific? A part of me, one I didn't like to admit was there, wondered what it would feel like if it were true, if somehow, without meaning to, I'd been pushed into the version of myself I only half allowed in the mirror. The front door clicked, and I nearly jumped out my skin. Emma's voice floated in, light and tired. Hey, you're up early. I shoved the paper under a stack of unopened mail just as she rounded the corner, her blonde hair pulled back, her work bag sliding off her shoulder. She kissed my cheek in that automatic way couples do, but I caught the slight narrowing of her eyes, like she sensed something in the air. You okay? She asked. Yeah, I lied, pushing a smile. Just thinking about some bills. She hummed, unconvinced, but didn't press. She moved around the kitchen with the ease of someone who'd memorized every creaky floorboard, pouring herself coffee, humming softly. I watched her, wondering if she'd even believe me if I told her. Or worse, what if she thought it wasn't a mistake? That maybe deep down I'd wanted it. I didn't tell her. Not then. Instead, I carried the weight of that paper in my pocket all day, even after folding it and tucking it into my jacket. At work, the words echoed in my head. Gender reassignment. Every time I caught my reflection in the elevator doors or in a dark computer screen, I saw two versions of myself layered on top of each other, one the man everyone knew, and the other was harder to define. That night, after Emma fell asleep on the couch with the TV still glowing, I pulled the envelope back out. I traced my name on the page with a fingertip, wondering who had written it there and why. And I couldn't shake the feeling that maybe, just maybe, this wasn't entirely an accident. The next morning I woke earlier than usual, my body restless even before the alarm went off. The bill was still on the table, half hidden under yesterday's mail, like a shadow I couldn't shake. Emma was still asleep, her breathing slow and steady, her arm draped over the edge of the bed. I slid out quietly, my mind turning over the same questions again and again. I needed answers. By the time I got to my laptop, the sun was barely creeping through the blinds. I typed in St. Adrian's Hospital and clicked through their site until I found a phone number for the surgical department. The first call went to voicemail. The second was picked up by a brisk-sounding nurse who asked for my patient ID before even letting me speak. She confirmed my date of birth, my address, my insurance information, everything was correct. Then she read off the surgical notes. The words washed over me like a foreign language, terms about pre-op preparation, anesthesia administration, post-op observation. All of it under my name. I told her there must be a mistake, that I'd never set foot in their building, but she insisted the paperwork was signed and my presence was logged. When I pressed for a copy, she hesitated, then promised to send it via secure email. My inbox chimed 15 minutes later. Attached were scanned forms with my signature, except the handwriting looked almost like mine. Close enough that a stranger would think it was, but I saw the differences. A slightly longer tail on the N, a sharper cross on the T. My stomach turned. Someone had forged it. But who? And why choose me for something like this? At work, I couldn't focus. My colleague Mark asked if I was okay after I nearly sent a report to the wrong client. I brushed him off, but his skeptical glance told me I wasn't hiding it well. I imagined Emma getting a phone call one day, someone telling her I'd gone through with something I hadn't agreed to. I pictured the look on her face: shock, confusion, maybe even betrayal. That night, I decided I couldn't just wait for answers. I pulled the old storage box from the back of the closet, the one where I'd kept a few things I'd bought over the years, but never dared to wear outside of rare, private moments. A soft cream blouse I'd found at a thrift store and convinced myself was just for a play costume. A pair of navy heels I'd bought online late one night and immediately hid. A wig, dark and shoulder length, tucked in tissue paper. I laid them on the bed, my heart pounding, not because I thought they were connected to the bill, but because I felt like I needed to understand something about myself before I confronted whoever had done this. I slipped into the blouse, the silky fabric cool against my skin. My reflection in the mirror shifted instantly, less about gender, more about a version of me I didn't usually see. The heels made me stand taller, though my steps were uncertain at first. When I added the wig, framing my face differently, I stared at the stranger in the glass and felt a mix of fear and a strange kind of relief. That's when I heard the front door click. Panic surged through me. I kicked the heels off, pulling the blouse over my head just as Emma's voice called out. I shoved everything back into the box, barely sliding it under the bed when she walked in holding a bag of groceries. "You're home early," I said, forcing my voice steady. She raised an eyebrow. "My shift got cut," she said slowly, scanning me as though trying to catch me in something. I busied myself with helping her unload the groceries, my pulse still racing. Over dinner, she mentioned a letter that had come for her at work by mistake, addressed to our apartment, but with a name she didn't recognize. She laughed it off as a postal error, but I froze, thinking of the bill. Later that week, I finally told my friend Carla about it. We'd known each other since college, and she was one of the few people I trusted with more personal things. She listened quietly as I explained the bill, the forged signature, and my confusion. "Maybe it's not about the surgery at all," she said. "Maybe someone's trying to push you toward something." I asked what she meant, but she just gave me a look like she knew more than she was willing to say. Have you ever thought, maybe they know a side of you haven't fully shown? The word stuck with me long after I left her apartment. That night, unable to sleep, I pulled the box out again. I dressed more carefully this time, letting myself spend longer in front of the mirror. I tried makeup awkwardly at first, smudging eyeliner and wiping it away, but eventually creating something that changed the way my face looked back at me. I wasn't ready to name what I was feeling, but I couldn't deny the strange calm that settled in. Just as I was taking it all in, my phone lit up with a new message from an unknown number. A photo, blurry but unmistakable. It was me dressed exactly as I was now, standing in my bedroom. My breath caught. Someone was watching me. I didn't move for several seconds after seeing the photo, my phone clutched in my hand so tightly my knuckles hurt. The background was my room exactly as it was now: the unmade bed, the half-open closet door, the same soft light from the bedside lamp, which meant whoever had taken it had done so within the last few minutes. My heart hammered as I scanned the room again, looking for a camera, a phone left behind, anything that could explain it. There was nothing. Another message buzzed in. Nice look. Shame to hide it. My fingers shook as I typed back. Who is this? No answer. I set the phone down, suddenly aware of the faint sound of the building settling, the distant hum of traffic outside. Then a soft creak in the hallway outside my door. I yanked the wig off and stuffed it, along with the blouse and heels, into the box, shoving it under the bed again. I moved toward the door slowly, pressing my ear to it. Nothing. When I finally opened it, the hallway was empty. But something told me whoever had sent that photo wasn't far. For the next 2 days, I lived in a constant state of alertness, jumping at every knock, scanning faces on the street. I considered telling Emma, but every time I imagined it, I saw her expression harden, her trust in me slipping away. On the 3rd day, I got a plain envelope slipped under the door. No return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a time, a place, and the words "come as her." My stomach flipped. The address was a cafe across town, one I'd never been to. I almost threw it away, but something in me needed to know who was behind this. That evening, after Emma left for a yoga class, I pulled the box out once more. This time I took more care, choosing a different blouse, a soft green one that felt less like a disguise and more like mine. I paired it with a skirt I'd never worn, tights, and the heels. My hands still trembled as I applied makeup, trying to steady the eyeliner, smoothing foundation until the reflection in the mirror felt complete. I caught the bus across town, my coat pulled tight around me. No one on the street seemed to give me more than a passing glance, but every step felt like it echoed too loudly. The cafe was small, warmly lit, with the smell of coffee and pastries drifting out into the cold evening. I stepped inside, scanning the room. At a corner table sat a woman in a dark coat, her hair sleek and dark, her gaze fixed on me from the moment I walked in. She smiled faintly, gesturing for me to sit. "You got my messages," she said, her voice low and even. I didn't answer right away. "Who are you?" She leaned back, studying me. "Let's just say I know things about you that you've been afraid to admit even to yourself." My chest tightened. "Did you send that bill?" Her smile widened just slightly. "The hospital bill?" "No. That was someone else. But I think you were meant to get it." I asked why, but she only said because you needed a push. Before I could press her, she slid a manila envelope across the table. Inside were more photos of me, some in the clothes I'd worn recently, others from months ago when I'd been certain I was alone. "You've been watching me?" I hissed. "Observing," she corrected. "Helping." I pushed the envelope back toward her, my pulse pounding. "I don't want this." She tilted her head. "Don't you?" The way she said it made my stomach twist because I wasn't sure anymore. I left the cafe, without looking back, the weight of her gaze lingering all the way home. Over the next week, I tried to shove the whole thing out of my mind, but the damage was done. Every time I looked in the mirror, I saw traces of that other self, the one she'd coaxed into the open. One night, while Emma was working late, I sat at the vanity and started doing my makeup without thinking. I had just finished when the apartment door opened. I froze, brush still in my hand. Emma stepped into the room, her eyes locking on mine in the mirror. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she walked in, closing the door behind her. "So," she said softly, "how long has this been going on?" I opened my mouth, but no words came. She sat on the edge of the bed, watching me. "I'm not angry," she said finally. "I just wish you'd told me." The relief that washed over me was almost enough to knock me over, but it was short-lived. Because the next morning, another envelope appeared under our door, this one addressed to Emma. Inside was a copy of the surgery bill. When I got back home, the apartment felt eerily still, as if it knew I was hiding something. I closed the door and leaned against it, trying to steady my breath. My reflection in the hallway mirror caught my eye. My hair was still slightly tousled, my lips still faintly tinted from the lipstick I hadn't fully scrubbed off. I quickly grabbed a tissue and tried to wipe it away, but no matter how much I rubbed, there was still a subtle sheen, a reminder of what had just happened. I changed clothes fast, tossing the outfit into the laundry basket as if that would erase the memory, but the ghost of the silk still lingered on my skin. Every sound seemed louder, every creak of the floor reminding me that this secret wasn't safe, that someone could walk in at any moment and discover me. Later that evening, my phone buzzed with a message. It was from her. A single picture appeared on my screen. It was me, wearing the dress, frozen mid-laugh. The caption was short, but it made my stomach drop. "We need to talk. Tomorrow." My hands trembled as I stared at the screen. 1,000 thoughts ran through my mind. Would she blackmail me? Show someone? Use it as leverage? I tried to sleep, but the image kept replaying in my mind, that click of the camera sealing my fate. Morning came far too quickly. I barely touched my breakfast, my appetite drowned in dread. At exactly noon, I got another message. "Meet me at the cafe on 5th, where something different." There was no explanation. Just that. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, wanting to ask what she meant, but I knew it was pointless. She had the photo, and I had no choice. My pulse raced as I imagined what different could mean. Something inside me wanted to resist, to fight back, but another part, a quieter, more curious part, wondered what she had in mind. When I arrived at the cafe, she was already there, sipping coffee with an unreadable expression. On the chair next to her was a neatly folded bag. Without a word, she slid it across the table to me. "Go change," she said, her tone calm but leaving no room for argument. My hands felt heavy as I took the bag and walked to the restroom. Inside, I opened it to find an outfit I never would have chosen for myself: soft fabrics, delicate lines, colors that would draw eyes to me instantly. My throat tightened. Every rational part of me screamed to walk away, but somehow my hands began to move.